Well, it's 12:01, so I can officially wish everyone a happy afternoon. Welcome to the December version of the Brown Bag on the Brazos. We're really excited that you've joined us today. Our Brown Bag on the Brazos meetings that we've been hosting following our board meetings are to allow us to have an opportunity to share with our customers and the public and anybody that's interested in the BRA and water issues that are ongoing around the state of Texas. It's an opportunity for us to introduce to you what it is that we're doing, educate you on some of our initiatives, and then allow you to see the projects that are moving forward along the Brazos River and in the Brazos Basin. So again, we're really appreciative of you taking time to be here. One of our housekeeping rules is we really try our very best to keep these meetings to 1 hour. So we'll allow you to get back to your day or to your job. So again, thank you very much. My name's David Collinsworth. I'm the General Manager, CEO of the Brazos River Authority. Judy, you can go to the next slide, please. And here's kind of what our agenda looks like. I'm gonna talk a little bit about some of our board actions from our recent board meeting. And then Blake Kettler, our Technical Services Manager, will talk a little bit about some exciting news on our project update section that we've recently put on our webpage. And really, he's going to dive down into some of the details about some of the changes that we've made over the last year or so to kind of optimize what we're doing as far as project delivery. And then we'll let Aaron Abel, our Water Services Manager, talk a little bit about our water supply, talk a little bit about what it means for us to have an El Nino or a La Nina, because I know some of that's been in the media here recently. And then we'll take some questions and answers. So next, Judy. So here's kind of how you do your questions and answers. Ask questions anytime during the presentation. To ask a question, you click on the question bubble in the right-hand corner. And then we'll, toward the end of the meeting, again, we'll either myself or somebody from our staff will answer your question. If you don't want to ask a question in this forum or you think of one later, you can always go to information@brazos.org. You can see it there on the slide and submit a question, and we'll get you an answer and get back to you. Judy? So here's a little bit about our next board meeting will be January 31st, 2022. All of our board meetings are live streamed. You can go back and watch them on our webpage, www.brazos.org. Some of our board meetings are very long. However, the way that we put the video in the PowerPoints on our webpage, you can go in and just click on and watch individual agenda items. So you don't have to commit to a 2 or 3 or 4 hour meeting to learn what you're trying to learn or get the data that you're trying to acquire. So our last board meeting was in November, and I want to share with you just a little bit about what our board considered and approved. We had a really unique opportunity for one of our customers to come introduce themselves to our board of directors. It was something that we had started with our executive management team prior to COVID. We were having customers come in and present their challenges as Texas continues to grow that they're seeing in the water world. And then obviously COVID hit and changed the way that we did meetings. But we had Gulf Coast Water Authority. Their corporate office is down around Texas City, between Texas City and Galveston. We had a Gulf Coast Water Authority come in and give a presentation to our executive management team. So we did the same with our board of directors. And Brandon Wade, their general manager, CEO, came in and talked a little bit about all of the growth that they're seeing, their challenges for meeting both municipal and industrial supply, some challenges that they're having on the ag side, and some of the big picture water planning initiatives that they have going on. So we were real appreciative of Brandon coming up and talking to our board. We also, our board considered and approved an action item for our Williamson County Regional Raw Water Line. We have a very large pipeline that connects 2 reservoirs that allows us to manage water supply during a drought. and it's time for us to put in larger pumps so we can move more water faster. So these are pumps and projects that have been considered for many, many years, but because of the growth and the demands on water, it's time to move forward on those. So we're going to spend a lot of time looking at the integrity of the pipeline because it's 15 to 20 years old, and we're going to spend some time evaluating and engineering and planning some very large pumps to move water very fast. So we were appreciative of our board considering that and providing us approval to do that. Another item that I thought was of a very significant item, our board approved for us to enter into a construction contract for some low flow gates up at Lake Granbury. There we have at Lake Granbury, you can go on our web and research Lake Granbury and actually see videos about how we operate the lakes. We have these very large Tainer gates that let water flow under them, but we also have some smaller gates that allow us to more efficiently manage how we release water during times when we need just very small amounts of water released. So we are beginning a multi-million-dollar project to begin construction and replacing those gates. So we're real excited to move forward with that. So again, for the rest, our board meeting was pretty short. For the rest of the agenda items, you can go to our webpage and dive right into the board meeting. Judy, next slide. So again, you can either ask us questions here or go to information@brazos.org if you have questions. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Blake Kettler, and Blake, let you talk to people, talk to the folks about our project office and how they can go learn more about our projects.
Appreciate it, David. Can everyone hear me? I guess I'm good to go audio wise. Yeah, so as David stated, there's something that we'd like to show the group here, something that we're pretty excited about, something that's a new direction for the organization. But before that, again, I'm Blake Kettler, Technical Services Manager. And so this is what you can see here, and I apologize, I don't have any slides or anything, but wanted to mainly talk about this website page here. But before we start providing an overview, I wanted to touch on a few points of kind of what led us to creating this project update website. For starters, a few years back, there was a shift within the organization to focus more on project delivery and following through with our proposed projects. This was an area that needed a little bit more focus. In the past, we've had many projects on the books with active status, but we're having challenges keeping all projects moving forward and progressing. So with some newly implemented measures to help us succeed in this area, such as our project management office, the development of that, and also our capital improvement planning department, we're making strides towards improvement in project delivery. For an example of what our project management office does, it's basically a support network for our project managers throughout the organization. Those that are familiar with project management offices, ours is more of a supportive role as opposed to a directive role. So our project managers are spread throughout other departments. Their main focus or goal is making sure that we manage projects uniformly, making sure that we're all using the same templates, the same processes, everything with efficiency in mind. So that's something that we've implemented here over the last couple of years, and just to kind of provide basically our mission statement, for lack of a better term, for that department, it is to support the BRA mission by developing and implementing best practices and methodologies to train, equip, and enable project managers to deliver projects that exceed stakeholder expectations. Also, as stated, we put together or developed our capital improvement planning department. So this department helps us to develop a forecast into the future and projections of when to activate a project. So we have many projects within our portfolio, but understanding what makes sense from a timing perspective or resource or budget perspective to bring that project online and start working it through to fruition. But that's not just the creation of those departments. There's many more aspects that have driven us towards becoming more project focused or taking that approach. This focus has impacted all departments throughout the organization. So every department, that's here at BRA. It's been a very team-involved approach or a team-involved effort. And we've all basically went to work on making progress on projects and figuring out what works and what doesn't. So that's kind of those checks and balances, and that's where the PMO or the project management office helps us out with that. So we've documented our successes, and challenges, and implemented processes to improve efficiency in project delivery. A major component to efficient project delivery is continuous monitoring of project controls. And when I'm talking about project controls, I'm talking about scope, time, cost, and risk associated with projects. So when you're trying to see how projects are progressing, you're really focusing in on those aspects of a project. And with that, there's the need for a reporting type function when doing that. So we started trying to come up with a way to inform stakeholders. And at first, the focus was internal stakeholders. We wanted to make sure we were meeting their expectations on what they needed to see real time as far as where a project is, and the information that we provide on that project, make sure all that's accurate and kind of fits the bill there. So basically, our first task was creating a template for us to provide to those internal stakeholders, that they can look at, that has all the information real quick, easily interpretable, has that same feel for each project. So that way, every time they get one of these updates, they know exactly where to look for the information. So for an example, I'll click here, but this is that template that we were talking about. So basically, in this box right here, what we have, or what I like to refer to it as, is the asset information. So it's the information that revolving that asset that this project is going to involve. And then over here we have the project, and that's talking about the details of that project and what's going on. We have our status box down below, and then some other additional information, some real high level plan schedule milestones, and then a very high level budget summary as well. So let me go back real quick. So at first, like I said, these updates were for internal stakeholders, but and also our board of directors as a trial run, basically, to make sure the information's right. We're hitting the nail on the head, exactly what folks want to see. So while continuing to deliver information on that front, we turn towards providing this information to the public by incorporating the information on our website. So this is a new approach for the organization. This hasn't been done in the past. We've never included, I guess, detailed project information for every single little project that we have like this. But this is basically our initial project update website. So this will be updated frequently, probably on a quarterly basis, as we work through doing these project updates. In addition, as we bring new projects online, we'll incorporate them here on the website, or as we close out projects, they'll be removed. So this will be updated. It's not just a one-time thing that you go and look at. I mean, we're looking at this for more for as an interactive splash page on our website that talks about projects. So getting into what the splash page looks like, or the website looks like. Basically, up top here, you have an interactive map that shows the basin, and what you can do is you can click on different locations spread throughout the basin. If you want to say, if your particular interest is at what projects do we have at PK or Limestone or basin wide, whatever it may be, you have the ability to go in and click on these different locations and see projects listed by location. So as we bring on new projects, if it's a new location, there will be a new a new Brazos logo there, to where you can click and look at those projects. We also have the ability or if you'd rather navigate by more of a list format, you can basically go past the map there and just scroll down through here and look at individual projects just in a list basis. And then you can also as well click on those projects to bring them up and make them a little more easier to read and navigate. Also, if you don't want to navigate via the map, over here, there's projects by location to where you can click on if you wanted to look at upper basin projects or central or lower basin projects, or look at a particular facility, you have the ability to do that as well. So like I said, these will be updated on a pretty frequent basis. I'd like to dive in and kind of show you a few project updates as well. But before, I guess, getting off this page here, we like to solicit feedback on our project. So if anybody has anything of interest, if you want to know more about it, if you have a question or a comment or whatever, we have an area here where you can click here and basically it pulls up an email and you can provide your feedback, question, comments, whatever. Everything's everything's welcome there. So with that, I'm going to kind of walk through the map here and click on a few different areas, and we'll go through a couple project updates and talk about what's going on for that particular project. So you open that up, you click here for Possum Kingdom, and here it provides a list of all the projects here. The first one I'm going to touch on here is the Possum Kingdom Flow Control Replacement Project. Folks who are familiar with Possum Kingdom know that it's a very unique setup. For others that aren't so familiar, we've got what's called bear trap gates, and there's only a few places in the nation that have this design of a gate. Here you can see the outside of the gate and a picture of inside the gate chamber. So basically how these operate is we flood this gate chamber. The water pressure pushes up on the upstream leaf and downstream leaf. That hydraulic pressure, then we have somebody walk across the top of the dam here and unlock these locking bars. And then we drain this chamber out and the gate collapses down on itself. So the mechanism to provide water to these gate chambers is through our flow control gates. Currently, we have in place what's called a roller gate, and it may be difficult to see here in this picture, but that's a roller gate there. In this project, we're looking at replacing those roller gates with a sliding gate. And the reason being is these roller gates, basically, there's 3 per operating pier. We've got a total of 9 bear trap gates, 3 operating piers located here. When you go through there, and if you can have something as small as say a quarter or something like that to get jammed up in the guide for the gate, and it'll cause the seal to roll up. So it's something that we have to really focus in on and be careful from a maintenance perspective to not get any debris or anything within that guide there. But this, so we're looking at a way to basically make us a little more efficient, to save us time, maintenance wise, money, maintenance wise, all that by looking at a newer style gate there. So we've executed a contract with Gannett Fleming, who will be the engineer here. They're going to design a replacement measure for those roller gates with a slide gate, and then with the uniqueness of us having to make flood releases, everything like that out of this reservoir, it was going to be very difficult to get a contractor out there. That basically we might have to put a pier back in service even while we're working in it within a 24-hour to 48-hour time frame. So we've got a group up there called our RSMU, or a Reservoir System Maintenance Unit group that performs a lot of different construction functions and maintenance functions there on the dam. I can't praise those folks enough up there. I mean, they're really artists in what they do between all the trades of concrete and welding and all that good stuff. But basically, that's going to be our internal contractor to help us with the construction side of this project. So as you can see here in the plan schedule, we went through scope and fee negotiations and executed a contract. We're in the process of working through design and all that. And like I said, it's a new project, so we don't really have any project expenses. Most of the time, if you're wondering how we get through scope and fee negotiations, usually we capture any internal time involved in that in overhead, in department overhead, and then externally, as far as engineers, we don't pay for scope and fee negotiations. We consider that business development. So I'm going to go on to another. I'm going to go back and we'll look at a couple other updates here. I'm going to go down to Granbury here, and we'll look at their projects that they have here. One that, and David kind of touched on this project earlier, but thought it would be good to provide a little bit of what's going on there. We have our low flow facilities project at Lake Granbury. So basically, this is a way for us to release a smaller amount of water as opposed to using the larger Tainer gates that you can see right here. The low flow facilities are right here, but we're going in there and replacing some gates and doing some work with the hydraulic pressure unit and everything involved there. But that's a project that Gannett Fleming, we contracted with them for. On the design end of things, we've completed design. It's gone out for requests for bids, and we just seeked authorization to enter into a contract with Marine Diving for them to perform the work there. So if you look at the planned schedule, we had the final design or in advertisement date within Q4 of 21. First quarter, we did the bid evaluation, and then we went for board approval and execution just here recently. You can also kind of see some of the project expenses to date as well, and that's all our design costs and all that stuff captured in there, and then our 22 budget. One thing to keep in mind when you're navigating these project updates, the budget summary sometimes can be a little difficult to understand because a lot of our projects span multiple years, but we just give that current year or that fiscal year budget, so that way those are going to be our most accurate numbers, and we keep fine tuning those out. So when we get to 23, 24, stuff like that. So don't look at this budget as we're going to complete this project in this year, but that just gives you a better understanding of the numbers you're looking at there. Another project, let me see, is the two-slip boathouse replacement. So folks that navigate this area through downtown Granbury, you've probably seen a lot of activity over in this area where BRE's, original boathouse was for our lake rangers and staff there at Granbury. And it's kind of reached the end of its service life. There's been some corrosion there just due to the salinity of the reservoir. It's been there a while. It's just time to be replaced. So this one has the current boathouse has been removed, and last time I was up there, I think it was stored here on shore. And we're in the process of constructing a new boathouse out there in that area, and that should be reaching completion here very soon. So you can, again, the plan schedule information here. You can see the demo and install the new boathouse is basically, happening during this first quarter, and you can see project expenses and budget as well. And like I said, we'll update these on a quarterly basis. So, next time we update this one, it'll probably show this project complete. And then I think I have time. I'll grab one more update real quick. Again, so if you want to see the basin-wide projects when you're navigating this map, if you just click anywhere on the basin, you see how it highlights it, and that, I don't know if you want to call that a blue or green or what, but you can just click anywhere on the basin and go there and see the basin-wide projects as well. You can scroll through the list. There's that option too. So looking at Lake Limestone, this is a project that a lot of folks have probably seen if you're out in that area very often, but we're doing some work there in Park 5. So right now, currently, the work is kind of revolving around some road work. So we're redoing some asphalt, some improving the road surfaces within Park 5, and I think that's due to be complete here pretty soon. I want to say within this month. The other part of this project is replacing a loading pier here and also an ADA pathway and access pier down towards this end of the park. We're in the process of getting a design for those. So we're acquiring that design from one of what we call our IDIQ, or indefinite quantity, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity. Sorry, I get that acronym mixed up sometimes. But a standing contract that we have, and we're acquiring the design for that through that avenue, and then looking to bid that there in the February timeframe. So again, you can see kind of the plan schedule here, some of the budget summary information as well, current project status. So with that, I just wanted to, we thought this was a good avenue to give you a general feel for that project update website, and that's all I have. I'll let y'all take it back.
Okay, thanks, Blake. I appreciate that. So all this may make a little bit more sense if you're interested in really what our focus is on projects. We have a ginormous obligation, and we take it very seriously to make sure that these dams are safe and they operate and they can deliver the water when it's called on. So we have a very heavy capital improvement strategy for maintaining these dams and how we're going to do that. So a lot of those projects are loaded into this part of the webpage, and you can go learn about them. We also have other projects in there too that will focus more on some environmental stuff, and we'll focus more on we'll focus more on water supply. So there's a lot to be learned about what it is that the Brazos River Authority is doing. There's also, if when we talk about these projects related to our dam, we also have some really good videos on our webpage that are 8 or 9, 10 minutes apiece that will walk you through and explain to you how we operate those dams, and they're really educational about how we manage our water supply. So speaking of water supply, I'd like to turn it over to Aaron Abel. Aaron is our water services manager, and he will get you up to speed on our water supply and what it means when the forecasters talk about having an extra dry winter. What does that mean to us, Aaron? Thank you.
All right. Hopefully you can see my slides. I don't know.
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, thanks for joining us this afternoon. We're going to walk through a couple things, like David mentioned, La Nina, and what that means to the Brazos River Basin, and talk about the rainfall that we've had, or the lack thereof we've had over the last 3 months. We'll touch on the changes in the drought monitor, and we'll also look at the status of the water supply system, and think about what could happen over the next several months, and some of the projections that the National Weather Service is making. So, let's see. As most will recall, this past summer wasn't exactly your typical summer, Texas summer. We actually had above normal rainfall, and we're generally cooler than usual over the June, July, and August months. So, that was nice to have. But if we look at the last 3 months, areas of the Brazos River Basin and throughout Texas has seen drier than normal conditions, and that's been the case for most of Texas and the majority of the basin. Typically, September and October are usually what we consider the second rainy season. We start having cold fronts that move through and interact with Gulf moisture that produces rainfall in those months, and we really haven't seen those here in the last several months. We have had some rain events, but just not as much as we typically have. This is a graphic that you're seeing here is from the National Weather Service, and it shows a departure from normal precipitation since late August. So over the last 3 months, we typically get a certain amount of rain, and it's usually our second rainy season. And this kind of shows, well, how much less rain did we get than normal? And so the yellows, tans, and oranges shading that you're seeing on this map represents areas which received below normal rainfall since late August. the gray areas, there's not many, but there's some gray areas out there that represent normal conditions, and that they got the rain what they typically get from August through November. And then the areas represented in the cool colors, the blues and the purples, those are areas that receive above normal rainfall. And we haven't really seen all that many areas of above normal rainfall in the Brazos. There's a couple of localized areas, but so we had some heavy rain events south of our basin in the Guadalupe Blanco system. But from this graphic, most of the central and upper portions of the basin, generally from Bell County, which includes Lake Stillhouse Hollow, Belton, and eastward towards Lake Limestone, and then also points northward through Lake Granbury and Possum Kingdom and Whitney, and the Proctor areas have seen anywhere from 2 to 6 inches below normal rainfall over the last 3 months. And so we have other areas within the Little River watershed in Williamson County and then downstream through parts of the lower basin have seen some, more or less normal rainfall and some areas with slightly above normal. But essentially the lack of rainfall that has been that we didn't receive has produced drier than normal soil conditions, and that has limited runoff when we do have rain. And it's also, dried out some of the grasslands and the croplands that we see. And we'll talk about the expansion of drought conditions in the basin in the next slide. But overall, our basin is in a good shape as far as water supply, and we'll talk more about that as well. So this slide, this is the U.S. Drought Monitor. We've shown this, in previous water supply updates, but this shows the status, as far as the basin is concerned from the Drought Monitor standpoint, with also our status of our reservoirs overlaid. And each color circle indicates the location of a reservoir and the percent full of each of the reservoirs within the system. And the color-coded legend for the reservoirs is in the upper left of each of the graphics. And then the Drought Monitor, drought intensity legend is in the lower left. So these Drought Monitor maps are basically depict qualitatively the drought conditions. So, you have the abnormally dry, which is the yellow shades, all the way up to exceptional drought. Thankfully, we have no exceptional drought right now. Parts of the West and New Mexico, you can see, are experiencing some extreme drought conditions. But for the most part, you can see qualitatively what's going on. The two graphics represent a snapshot of how drought conditions have changed roughly over the 3 months. So we looked at the departure from normal rainfall, and now we're looking at, okay, how does that impact the Drought Monitor? So working our way from left to the right in this slide, the left graphic is late August and where we were at the end of August 3 months ago. So it shows, after our abnormally wet and cool summer, almost all the basin showed no drought impact. So we had just a couple of areas upstream of Possum Kingdom in the Abilene area, around Throckmorton as well, had areas of abnormally dry conditions in late August. So moving forward to the right graphic, this shows the Drought Monitor as of now. We update this every week, and those graphics are put on our website under water supply in the drought categories. And so this was updated this morning, and you can see, unfortunately, short-term drought conditions have set in due to the lack of rainfall. So most of the area upstream of Possum Kingdom are now generally showing moderate to severe drought conditions, and that's what they call the D0 or D1 and D2 drought categories, and that relates to impacts mainly from dry grasslands, range conditions, and primarily the winter wheat crop in that part of the basin. So it's a short-term drought impact right now as it stands now. Over the last week, we also have seen areas from Lake Proctor eastward and northeastward to Lakes Granbury and Whitney have also entered into moderate drought condition, the D1 category. So drought conditions come in all forms, and whether it's a shorter term lack of rainfall, lack of soil moisture, to the longer term water supply impacts, the declining water supply storage. So thankfully we're in good condition. We'll talk more about that. But other areas within parts of the central basin and around Lake Stillhouse Hollow and Belton over to Lake Limestone are currently experiencing abnormally dry conditions, so that the D0 category. But overall, as of today, about half the basin is experiencing moderate to severe drought conditions. mainly agricultural impacts, with about a quarter of the basin experiencing abnormally dry conditions. And so the other quarter of the basin is primarily in the lower basin experiencing no drought conditions. So that's the status of the drought monitor right now. And kind of transitioning to La Nina, something that I'm sure a lot have heard or seen in the news is the reemergence of cooler than normal sea surface temperatures across the eastern Pacific, signifying a transition to what's called La Nina conditions. And so one of the things that the National Weather Service and NOAA looks at and continually monitors is sea surface temperatures across the globe. And this top graphic shows the sea surface temperatures interpolated across the globe, and they have buoys that continually float out in the ocean and monitor temperatures. And so you'll see the warm colors are shown. These are all in degrees Celsius as of at the end of October of 2021. So you can see the distribution of sea surface temperatures, mainly warm along the equator for the most part, and cooler on the poles. The lower graphic represents the sea surface temperature anomaly. So they know what normally happens this time of year, and then they're monitoring the temperature so they can determine how cool or warm the areas of the ocean are. And essentially what's happening, the bottom map shows the sea surface temperature anomalies, and like I said, the difference between what's compared now to the long-term average. And we've seen anomalies in the red oval, so that's along from off the coast of South America over towards Australia. That's the region where they monitor the conditions of El Nino versus La Nina. So you have El Nino conditions which are warmer than normal, and that's said to be present when and that plays into the our weather. Right now we are in what's called La Nina conditions. So when the sea surface temperature anomalies are below normal, i.e. cooler than normal, and these are the blue regions around the equator, we have La Nina conditions. And current long-term forecasts from the National Weather Service and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration indicate a continuation of La Nina conditions through 2021, 2022 winter. So it formed over the last couple of months, and it'll continue to. They project moderate La Nina conditions, at least through the winter and into spring. And so some folks will ask, well, how do these sea surface temperatures impact Texas weather? And it's a good question, and we'll talk about that here in the next slide. I do want to stress that these impacts are not absolute. I mean, we have had La Nina conditions in the winter, and we've had above normal rainfall, and it's not. There is correlation that when we do get into La Nina conditions, so the cooler temperatures in the sea off the coast of South America, it typically produces drier and warmer conditions for the southern tier of the U.S. So you have El Nino conditions typically bring wetter and cooler conditions to the southern tier, and this is what the left graphic represents. So the jet stream is somewhat stable and it's persistent and left to right. So that you have storm systems that continue to move from west to east and track over the same southern tier of the U.S. And that's what a lot of times happens in El Nino. So that's the warmer sea surface temperatures. On the other side of the coin, which we are now in, is La Nina, and that produces a northward shift in the jet stream, causing storm systems that typically bring rain, to the southern tier to move further north. And what you'll see, and if you kind of monitor the news, the Pacific Northwest has been hammered here the last several months with rain events and significant flooding. And so that the jet stream is definitely changed to a La Nina condition, and this equates to drier and warmer conditions for our part of the nation and in Texas. And so we don't necessarily, I mentioned this, not necessarily mean that we will absolutely have dry conditions. We are right now in a dry pattern, but we've seen normal or above normal rainfall and even flood events during La Nina conditions. So it's just something to keep in mind. The other factor in how strong a La Nina event is the magnitude of those temperature anomalies in the sea. And so right now they're projecting a moderate La Nina event. You know, if they were projecting a more severe La Nina event, you know, that we could have a stronger correlation to drier weather. So we'll have to monitor. That's something to watch. But projections currently indicate a moderate La Nina event, and will persist through potentially spring of 2022, and then transition to more normal or neutral, and hopefully, you know, back to normal kind of rainfall. So transitioning to back to water supply, and where are we now as far as water supply, and where are we going to go maybe in the next couple of months? So this is a graphic that we update weekly, shows the current available storage and reservoir drawdown of the water supply reservoirs within the BRA water supply system. And just to remind folks, this is BRA owns and operates 3 reservoirs: Possum Kingdom, Lake Granbury, and Lake Limestone. We have water rights in those reservoirs. Those reservoirs are water supply reservoirs only. We have no flood control storage. We have contracts or storage contracts with the Corps and 8 other reservoirs, and those are the 8 other reservoirs in the system that are multi-purpose, multi-use for flood control and water supply. And they are owned and operated by the Corps of Engineers, but we coordinate closely with the Corps to maintain the water supply and deliver water to our customers. So this basically shows the status of the 11 reservoirs in the system. On the upper Brazos is on the far left of the graphic, and you starting with PK. So the height of the columns is representative of the capacity of the reservoirs at full. And as you move to the right, you're moving downstream. So you're moving, kind of looking from the hill country towards Texarkana, moving left to right, upstream to downstream. And so the height of the bars, I said, you know, represents the total storage. The blue represents the bars represent the actual water stored in the reservoirs, and the white represent the empty storage. So the table in the upper right hand corner of the graphic provides the values related to percent full and the drawdown. So this is something that we update weekly, and you can find all this information on our website. Generally, most of the reservoirs right now are around 90% full or higher, with drawdowns at these reservoirs around 2 feet from full or less. So more or less, we're in great condition. Lake Georgetown is the smallest reservoir within the system, and it is 72% full. We mentioned the Williamson County Regional Raw Water Line. We transfer water from Stillhouse Hollow to Georgetown through that pipeline. It's a 48-inch pipeline, 28 miles long, connecting Stillhouse to Lake Stillhouse Hollow to Lake Georgetown, and that supplies and provides augmented supply to the cities of Georgetown, our Round Rock, and Brushy Creek Municipal Water District, so our utility district. We initiated the transfer of water through the pipeline in late September, and we've continued to maintain that transfer. Right now we're transferring about 41 million gallons per day, about 126 acre-feet daily through the pipeline. And overall, though, the system as a whole is at 95% full. We're in great condition, storing over 1.84 million acre-feet within the conservation spaces within the system. One of the things that we do as we get into dry periods is we try to project forward 2 months to see where the reservoir system, where the storage is going. This chart is what the reservoir system may look like by the end of end of January under extremely dry conditions. So these 2-month projections are updated at the beginning of each month. During wetter periods, as I mentioned, we typically discontinue that because it's kind of hard to, once we're full, it's hard to kind of figure out, you know, when we're going to start, getting dry again. But once the basin does start drying out, we start these projections and we'll issue these forecasts. Typically around the first of each month, the first week of the month. And so those can be found on our website at brazos.org. If you go under About Us and then Water Supply and Drought, you can find these projections. And we actually updated these a day or so ago. So what this is showing is if we were to experience a very dry December and January, the basin as a whole, could possibly drop down to about 91% full. And we're not saying that this is going to happen. It's saying that, we potentially, if conditions materialize, this is potentially what the system could look like. During the late fall and winter months with shorter days, cooler weather equates to lower demands and lower evaporation rates at the reservoirs, and the really large changes within the system just don't occur in the winter months. So I don't think we'll get down to 91%, but we may drop a little bit over the next couple months. So looking at seasonal outlooks from the National Weather Service, that they really combine the long-term trend. So they look at El Nino, La Nina conditions, what the soil moisture is, and kind of project forward and what could happen as far as precipitation and temperature. So this is outlooks are issued by the National Weather Service a couple of weeks ago. So these were issued November 18th, and it basically shows the probability of either above or below normal precipitation and then temperature over the next 3 months. So it's showing the probability, and I know that's kind of difficult for folks, but it's a tendency of what is possibly going to happen. The graphic on the left shows the seasonal precipitation outlook. So the light to dark browns shaded across the U.S. indicate increased probability of below normal precipitation, and that's consistent with what they're saying with La Nina and what could happen over the next several months. The right graphic shows the seasonal temperature outlook, and so the light and darker oranges indicate increased probability of above normal temperatures over the next 3 months. And here recently, as most can confirm, we have been experiencing above normal temperatures here. It's here in the Central Basin, it's going to be 75 to 80 degrees today, and that's a bit above normal for this time of year. National Weather Service and NOAA, they also release the drought tendency outlook monthly, and that's typically kind of along the same lines as the seasonal outlook at the middle of each month. And this was released November 18th and is valid through the end of February. And so we've shown this in previous updates, but the areas of brown indicate drought conditions are expected to persist, and so in the upper basin that seems to be holding true, at least in this outlook, with tan areas indicating improvement. And those aren't, unfortunately, we're not going to see, at least in this outlook, not going to see any improvement in drought in Texas. And then the yellow indicating drought development likely. And that, as you can see, that's kind of shows the potential for continued drought development over the basin. But, overall, the water supply system is in good condition, and but we will be monitoring forecasts and possible further drought development in the basin, through the winter and as we, enter the spring. And really the spring is when we get most of the rain, and for our system. And so we'll be watching that. But I think that includes our water supply update. And thanks for tuning in.
David, you might be muted.
Thank you, Blake. I'm not used to virtual again. Let's jump into some questions here. One of the questions we've recently received was asking about deer hunting on some of our properties. So I'd like to call on either our upper basin manager or our central lower basin manager to talk about above and beyond the duck hunting permits that we allow. Are there opportunities for deer hunting on BRA property?
This is Mike McClendon. I'll start it off from the upper basin. The BRA does not allow hunting on its properties. We did in the past have a lease that expired up at Possum Kingdom Reservoir. We do, I should say the state does allow hunting within the riverbeds. So down below our dams, you'll see duck hunters and deer hunters. One of the things that I would caution, though, if you're going to take that opportunity is, to be careful and be cognizant of the Parks and Wildlife and the rules and regulations associated with that, specifically with regard to the potential to trespass on private property and such. So it is allowable within the riverbeds, but folks need to be careful because you may have a duck hunter set up duck hunting and someone else may be coming up the riverbed, trying to hunt deer. So I'd always say use caution whenever you do that and be aware of your surroundings.
And Brad, can you touch a little bit on the duck hunting opportunities at Lake Limestone?
Right. Yeah. At Lake Limestone, the only hunting that we allow is duck hunting, and it's through a draw process. We have pre-selected blind locations across the reservoir, and there's an application and draw process that takes place either late spring or summertime to award those blind locations. So if you're interested in duck hunting at Lake Limestone, you can find more information about that by contacting our lake office out there at Lake Limestone.
Brad Burnett is our Central Lower Basin manager. And Brad, while I've got you hot mic'd, one of the discussion points that we're having, the questions that we're having a lot are about the growth that's happening statewide, particularly, in that triangle between Houston and San Antonio and Dallas. And the question then becomes, okay, BRA, what are you doing to plan for future water supply? Can you just take a few minutes to introduce the integrated resource water planning effort that we've recently kicked off? And for those of you that are following along, this is something that we're going to talk in specifics probably in March of next year at our brown bag. But Brad, could you just introduce the IRP?
Yeah, so it's IWRP is an acronym for Integrated Water Resources Plan, and it's something that we've been looking at and pursuing, I guess, for the last couple of years, but we've switched our focus a little bit. We're ultimately going to develop one for the entire basin, but because of the growth that we've been seeing over the last couple of years, particularly along the I-35 corridor down through McLennan County, Bell County, Williamson County, in that part of the basin, we're going to initially focus that effort in that area, and that area is the Little River watershed portion of our basin. So the rivers over there, the Leon, the Lampasas, and the San Gabriel, and all of those flow into the Brazos. But we're focusing on that area because of the growth. And one of the questions that a lot of people ask all the time, about water is, well, the foundation of our reservoir system is what has supplied water for all these years. So, why can't we just go build more reservoirs? And it seems like that would be an easy and good thing to do, but there are a number of reasons that that's not really practical in today's times. One is because a lot of the good reservoir locations are taken. There's significant property rights issues that you get into. There's also the matter of rainfall and inflow. And as you go further west in our state, there's just not enough rainfall and runoff to support more reservoirs. So that leaves us with looking at other water supply alternatives for the future beyond just traditional reservoir development. And that's where the integrated planning comes into effect, because meeting our water needs going forward is going to take a combination of a number of other types of projects, such as aquifer storage and recovery, where we're potentially storing surface water in the ground for future use. It's going to take greater conservation efforts. It's going to take greater and smarter use of return flows that are coming from our wastewater plants. And all of those things are kind of interconnected. So if you tweak one knob, it's going to have an effect somewhere else. And so that's what we're going to be looking at with this integrated water resource planning effort, looking at basically a strategic roadmap for what we need to do to develop additional water supplies for future growth, first in that Little River watershed, and then we'll be rolling it out to the entire basin here within the next couple of years.
Thanks, Brad. Good explanation. And again, this is a huge initiative that's going to involve, we use the word stakeholders, but a lot of our customers and experts to help us make sure that when we have the deliverable from our team and the consultant, that we really know how we're going to spend money and how to invest in the future of the state of Texas water supply. So one more question that we've received recently, and I'm going to call on Jenna Olson for this one. She's our environmental programs coordinator. And Jenna, for about, for the last 10 or 12 years, can you mute just 1 second? Thank you. For the last 10 or 12 years, we've been realizing the impacts from golden algae. And while over the last few years, we've seen less fish mortality from that, still during the wintertime in the Brazos Basin, it's pretty common for us to have some fish kills due to golden algae. It's also common for us to have fish kills due to extreme cold, like we had last February. From y'all's department, when people either on the river or at a reservoir see some dead fish, what would you how would you advise them to proceed?
Well, definitely, we here at BRA would like to have a call and let us know what y'all are seeing. And what we typically do, we need to notify Texas Parks and Wildlife. If any member of the public wants to call them too, they're also a good resource. Parks and Wildlife has a specific kills and spills team that if dead fish are reported, they go out there and try to see if they can determine what is the cause. If you have any idea of what species it is, they like to hear that when you make the reports. But yes, us and Parks and Wildlife are who would like to get those reports from the public.
But again, to reiterate what you're saying.
Excuse me?
Can you mute Jenna? Thank you. To reiterate what Jenna's saying is it is important for us to know. So if you're along the river or along one of the reservoirs and you see some fish dying, please let us know so we can work with Parks and Wildlife to figure out what's going on. Again, we've got another board meeting in January. One of the hot topics of discussion will be our strategic plan. We'll be hosting a strategic plan workshop with our board. So if you're interested in that and basically better understanding our vision and where what our initiatives look like going forth in the future, that would be beneficial for you to sit in on. And again, as we showed on the slide earlier, if you have questions that you didn't want to ask today, but you think of in the days to come, feel free to reach out to us on our webpage and let us know. And on behalf of the Brazos River Authority, I'd like to thank you for attending our brown bag, and Merry Christmas to everyone. Happy holidays, and we'll see you in January. Thank you.